WCNC Charlotte. This is Flashpoint, where power and politics collide and the tough questions get asked and answered.
Thanks for joining us here for a special edition of Flashpoint. I'm Ben Thompson. All weekend long, you've been watching the President's Cup right here on WCNC Charlotte. Well, today the competition wraps up at Quail Hollow, the worldwide golfing event marking a return of international events to the Queen City after years of the pandemic. Hear how leisure travel is now replacing business travel when it comes to local tourism. Then a little bit later, we'll talk about how the hotel industry is booming back. But first, joining us now is the CEO of the Charlotte Regional Visitors Authority, Tom Murray. Tom, thanks for coming on. We appreciate it.
Glad to be here.
All right, so we're talking to the President's Cup. What has it meant for Charlotte's tourism industry, especially after the pandemic, to have an international event the size of this here in Charlotte?
Well, obviously, we've been working on this event for a long time, and these strategic events that we partner with different entities within our city, and this one particularly with the team out of Quail Hollow and the President's Cup organization that's been, exciting for our city to welcome, in particular, the international travelers that come along with this. And obviously, our city has rebounded from the pandemic, and we are excited to welcome international travelers and U.S. travelers to our market.
You mentioned the international travelers. Maybe that's what it is. What makes the President's Cup different from some of the other big events that this city has hosted?
From a golf event, it's certainly one of the biggest that we've ever hosted. And while the PGA Championships in the past have been big, that this one seems to be even more have a greater reach and more successful. I think in part because of the importance it has internationally, but also just that Charlotte is becoming an exciting city to visit and is really coming into its own these days.
This is basically a big tourism ad, a big billboard for Charlotte.
Right. I mean, that we certainly market our city for particular leisure travel and sell our city for meetings and groups and conventions. But these strategic events allow us to reach markets that we're not advertising in and reach and tell our story about what Charlotte has got to offer a visitor.
In the past week, we have heard the president say the pandemic is over. Is that true from your experience when it comes to travel and tourism here in Charlotte?
Well, we've been tracking the recovery from the pandemic for the tourism industry for some time, and as we predicted, the leisure side of the recovery happened first, and quite frankly, happened stronger than we even expected. And I think what has happened is all the work that we were doing pre-pandemic to grow Charlotte as a leisure destination is happening, and so we're now experiencing that. And for instance, we've had 15 of the 20 highest occupancy nights in the history of Mecklenburg County have happened since May, and so we're certainly benefiting from the fact that we're recovering from the pandemic, but also we're as a city becoming a strong leisure destination, and people are traveling to urban areas to understand what there is to offer there. And so certainly pleased with that. And then following that recovery, we saw our group and convention and meetings business recover. And so that's back in full steam now. And we're really predicting a record year for the convention center and hotels as well this year. And then last thing to recover really was business travel. And it is close to 2019 levels. It's been above and beyond and below that 2019 levels, which were record levels for the business side of our travel, and we're pleased to see that happening. And I think September is certainly seeing that recovery even stronger. We're also seeing evidence that people are returning to the office and highest levels since pre-pandemic, and that's exciting for us to see the full recovery of our business.
You make an important distinction there that I want to sort of highlight even further, because pre-pandemic you largely associated Charlotte tourism with business travel, and you're talking about leisure travel is becoming a bigger thing, and that this was something that was sort of already in the works before the pandemic, and we are now starting to sort of reap the benefit of that good work your group has been doing.
Our group and many others have, we've been doing large events that tell our story beyond our marketing reach, but we've also been marketing heavily and particularly in a 250-mile drive radius, but now we're expanding that radius to 400 miles. And so we've told people our story about our culinary and our arts and culture, about the outdoor adventure available here in Charlotte, and our people and our diverse people. And so we've been able to tell that story, and it's exciting for people. And we can tell by tracking our advertising that we're generating leisure room nights. We ran a campaign that started in the fall of 2020, and we know that people that have interacted with us on our digital advertising have generated 356,000 room nights into our marketplace, leisure market, leisure travel. And so we're excited about our capabilities and our messaging that people seem to be very attracted to.
What is exactly driving the leisure travel here to the Queen City? Is it the big events, sort of like what we're talking about with President's Cup, or is it smaller events and part of the strategy that you just laid out?
I think it's all of the above. I think, quite frankly, the big events get us awareness, and people are reminded about Charlotte and maybe a thing that they want to do. Our advertising gets called to action, and we know that advertising, when our targets interact with it, they're very excited about coming to Charlotte. And the last thing really is the experience once people get here, and that has been very positive, and we know from our own surveys that people are enjoying their experience when they're in Charlotte.
It's impossible to come to the city and not be impressed by it and enjoy it. When it comes to business travel, do you expect it to go back to what it was at one point, or is this the new normal?
Yeah, I think we're close. I mean, what all of our data shows that we're getting back to pre-pandemic levels in business travel. And my sense is that it will be bigger than it was in pre-pandemic levels. So when you think about all the activity that's happened corporately, in the corporate relocations and the new office towers that have been built, there's been significant change in the business energy within our community. And think about companies like Honeywell and all the new office towers that were constructed. I understand there's something like $5 billion worth of construction completed during the pandemic in the uptown marketplace. And so that will have a significant impact on growth. And so whatever business travel wouldn't return in our normal capacities, we think it will be it would be even greater because of the new energy that has come into our market, and also found Charlotte is an attractive business destination.
All right, Tom Murray with the Charlotte Regional Visitors Authority. Tom, exciting time to be in Charlotte, and exciting time to have your job leading this effort when it comes to tourism. Thank you for coming on. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Coming up next on this special edition of Flashpoint, hear how the hotel industry is now booming post-pandemic. That's coming up next, right here on Flashpoint.